going to be hosted by our very own Angie Callen. This is the Park Business Academy Boost Your Business. And before we get started, I would like to read our DEI statement. Park is committed to diversity and inclusion throughout this association. Diversity and inclusion includes, but is not limited to, age, gender, race, religion, ethnicity, disability, appearance, sexual orientation, gender identity, personality type, and geographic location. Park understands that diversity and inclusion allows us to make better decisions because we are exposed to different opinions, perceptions, values, and experiences. Our goal is to integrate these differences throughout Park to create an experience that expands everyone's horizons and opportunities for engagement, learning, and leadership. So welcome to all of you, and welcome Angie Callen. I will turn it over to you, Angie.
Thank you, Margaret. I am super excited because if there's one thing that I like talking to people more about than careers and resumes, it's business. And I'm very excited about this partnership with Park to create a business program for you all. And we're going to give you kind of a taste and some tips today on what you can do to boost your business this year. So let me get my screen share up and we will dive into all of this. Come on. All right. That is the wrong slide. Thank you, PowerPoint, for starting at the end. I thought it was smarter than me. So, all right. What is boosting your business? Why should we boost our businesses? What can we do as coaches and resume writers with strong businesses? And how do you do it? Are all things we're going to talk about today as we kind of get into what Park Business Academy is and what all of us have the capacity to do in our businesses and in our specialties as coaches and resume writers. So I always like to kind of kick things off with some introduction. So if any of you have been on a webinar with me, you know I kind of always do this. I love to know who's in the room. So what I want to know is who's a brand spanking new entrepreneur. That's a big word, everybody. You might be a career coach, you might be a resume writer, but unless you are working inside a corporate setting or a university setting as a coach or resume writer, you are an entrepreneur. So that's a mentality I want all of you to take on. So I want to know in chat, give me you are busting at the seams excited because you're a brand spanking new engineer. Smiley face, or let me know if you're somebody who's maybe been in business for a few years, but you're in growth mode. You know you have capacity, but you haven't really tapped into that organic growth yet. And then, oh, there you go, solopreneur. That's another great word. And then I'd love to see a thumbs up or anybody out there who's a little bit more seasoned and is kind of ready to, let's say, scale. There's two words here that I think there's a difference between growth and scaling. In my opinion, growth is how much can I do as a solopreneur organically to grow as strong a business as I can. Scaling then becomes how do I go beyond solopreneur into larger. Boost Your Business really focuses on maximizing growth so that you have the foundation to then scale. And so this is great for everybody here. Let's see, who do we have? We have an excited entrepreneur. Yeah, we've got some people in growth mode, scale mode. What we're going to talk about today is applicable to all of you. And I'll tell you a little bit about kind of my journey in this world and both entrepreneurship and RWCCing, which will help, I think, a lot of you resonate because the goal of kind of this idea behind Boost Your Business and what we're going to talk about today is really to make it approachable and applicable to any phase of business. And just so you know, we are going to do a foundations course next week, which I'll talk about at the end for any of you that are like the brand spanking new who need a little bit more like business structure basics, that one-time setup stuff. But we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end. In the meantime, I'm excited to kind of get into some actual tips and some training with you all. And everything that I'm going to talk about today is really from my own experience building a business in the coaching, specifically career coaching and resume writing space. I founded Career Benders 5 years ago on Sunday. So we just had a big 5-year celebration. We are doing National Career Coach Day all week for any of those of you who I've seen around that kind of stuff, which kind of came out of everything that I've experienced in the last 5 years. And just to give you a little bit of my background, I started my career as a civil engineer. And as you might be able to tell, I am not an engineer. And when I was in high school, I didn't have strong aspiration for a career. And even in college, by my junior year, I knew I didn't want to be an engineer, but you go to really expensive engineering school, you don't change your major when you're a junior. So I stuck it out. I practiced in the field for about 8 years, which, funny enough, here's a first seed I'll plant for all of you. Funny enough, that has all come full circle in my career coaching and resume writing practice, because I use that technical foundation to tell an engineer that I can understand them, because nobody else can understand engineers, right? And I'm allowed to say that because I used to be one. So that's, you can use different aspects of your experience to create unique marketability. But in 2008, after about 7 years in the industry, smack in the middle of the Great Recession, I decided I'm out. And I took a little career finding journey. It was not very well planned. I think some of that also informs the way I coach today. I landed in the nonprofit sector for about 7 years, 4.5 of which I was the executive director of a grassroots organization that had a ton of growth potential no one had tapped into. And all of a sudden, Angie's entrepreneurial signals were going everywhere. And it was an experience that helped me understand so much about myself, my strengths, my interests, and even superpowers that then rewind 15 years made sense on why, as a top performer in high school, I used to feel self-conscious then. A top performer in high school, I didn't have a career aspiration, and I knew why. They don't teach entrepreneurship in high school, especially in Podunk, Pennsylvania in 1999, right? And so all of this really came together into the wish to start a business. I love entrepreneurship and I love business. And I knew I had the capacity to coach, consult, came across the career specialty of coaching in late 2017, 18, when I would say it was kind of like emerging. It hadn't full on emerged yet like it has now, but it wasn't completely unknown. And so timing wise, I've ridden a really interesting wave and learned a thing or two that now we get to teach you. So I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to think about, what if you could change the lives of others and your own through career coaching and resume writing? I want you to think about that, because a lot of us get caught up in our vocation, or either I need to make money or I need to make impact or I want a client, and we lose sight of really what we're doing in a big picture. And when people say this to me, I have to stop and think and say, it is okay to know that we change people's lives, but through that change, we have the ability to impact our own immensely. If you want just a little, I'm super transparent, open book. So you can chat me questions anytime you want, ask for more details. If you want to know numbers, I will share them. I'm an open book. And I was thinking about what stories I wanted to share as I gave you all the hope and confidence and proof that this is possible to do huge work through this vocation. My husband and I lived in a 225 square foot tiny home that we built inside of a bus for 4 years. It is how we drastically reduced our living expenses. It is how I was able to invest in growing Career Benders. And in turn, Career Benders allowed us to buy our first home. At the age of 41 and a half, I bought us a house, and we don't live somewhere cheap. My husband works for me as part of Career Benders. And so I've been able to create and grow something that has changed our lives while changing other people's. And I got hot talking about that, because it's just such an incredible thing to think about the potential that we all have. And I am a huge fan of helping you pursue your potential. And that is what this is all about today. So I want to see a show of hands. Who's out there? Claire said she's a work in progress and she's always growing. I want to know who wants more clients, who wants to make more money, and who wants to build wealth, right? This is getting you all into the business of coaching mentality, which we're going to talk about in a little while. Because a lot of coaches and resume writers just want to coach and resume write and help people. And it is totally okay to want to help yourself in the meantime. And that's what I really want to empower you to do, is do both. You can do both. An average coach in any discipline makes $56,000 a year. You have the capacity, if you want, that's the big thing. If you want to do so much more, if you have the ability to really consider how to optimize your business through the services that you offer. And so, like Mark said, you gave me a preview. He wants to make more money and build wealth while working less. I'll show you good segue. I'll share a couple stats with you. So, my growth statistics, again, it's all possible. Here we go. So, from year 1 to year 2, my business doubled. From year 2 to year 3, it tripled from year 2, not from year 1. And I almost killed myself. That was 2020 when if you were a career coach in 2020, I deserve an honorary LMFT license because I am a therapist now. And that was the big growth year. And it was just largely out of the volume and quantity of work I did, which is why we're going to start talking about adjusting some of that so that you can maintain revenue while not just working more. Because then from year 3 to 4, I only grew 10%, but I worked like 45 hours a week instead of 70. So that's actually a really big change. And then from last year to this year, I grew another 35%. Career Benders made $350,000 last year. If you just want to know what it was like. And I say that more out of my own shock than any kind of bragging, but I share that kind of information and am transparent about it because I am so passionate about how entrepreneurship can be a pathway to consistent career-like income and breaking down the fears around that. And it makes me excited that I get to do it for people who are colleagues and that we're, making change for other people in the process. So how is this all possible? Here we go. Let's get into it. So did I go the right way? Yes, here we go. So here's what I want you to think about. This is what Mark alluded to. You're going to increase your leads. You're going to increase your conversions. So let's say right now you get 4 leads a week and you convert 1 of them. What happens if you got 3 leads a week and converted 2? Right? Or what happens if you got 5 leads a week and converted 4, or got 5 and converted 2? Whatever it is, incremental changes to everything you do can actually add up to huge, huge difference. The growth in Career Benders from last year to this year was largely due to a price adjustment and a service line addition that probably brought in maybe like 10% of the growth. But we're going to get more into that too. So think about in your head the time you spend generating business and think about increasing the leads, increasing the conversion, streamlining a sales process, taking the fear out of it. I sometimes don't want to admit that I think I could sell swampland in Florida. So I don't fear the sales process, but I also don't think of myself as a salesperson because I have to really believe that swampland in Florida can do somebody good if I'm going to sell it. But we're going to kind of streamline that kind of stuff. So you're increasing your leads, increasing the conversion rate of those leads, and streamlining a sales process so that you can maximize your roadie. I know what you're all saying. What the hell is roadie? Okay, this is a totally made up Angie term. Okay, are you ready? It is the return on your time investment and your impact. So we know ROI is return on investment, right? In the coaching world, time is our material. And so we want the maximum return on our time investment as we can, while making sure we are generating the impact for our clients that makes us want to coach and write resumes in the first place. So here's how you do this: is you convert leads at a higher rate, right? It will save you time. That's your ROTI. You'll gain higher quality leads when you are better at your conversion process and streamline how they come in. It consolidates and focuses people around that niche. Oh, there's a rabbit hole I could go into, but we're not going to talk about niches today that much. And so you can save time through converting leads at a higher rate, get a higher quality of content of contacts and clients, which is a better eye because your results are better if you've got a higher quality content. Let's just be real. And both of those two things together allow you to increase your per client ticket. So if you've ever worked in a restaurant, they call it, when you go dine, they call it a ticket. And the goal is to increase every ticket, sell you another drink, refill a drink that isn't free, add on dessert, right? You have the ability to do that through how you present your products and services, whether it's packages, whether it's add-ons, whether it's upsells, or whether you're just able to increase the cost of your services. And then the other thing, and all of that allows you to improve your profitability because time is your material. So unlike a baker who has a hard cost of materials, she's got to buy flours, eggs, yeast, whatever it is. We have time, and you measure your profitability based on how much time it's taking you to make money, serve clients. I have spreadsheets that we have done to analyze different services and how much time I spend writing a resume. What's my per hour rate that I'm actually getting for that time? So you can really get granular with this, but in a nutshell, there are business strategies you can put in play that will kind of streamline and optimize all of these things so that you're spending less time getting higher paid clients. And what that does is, one, gives you a life, in case you were like me in 2020. But it also gives you the ability to rapidly grow your income because you have greater capacity for more clients because everything else is taking less time, but they're paying more. So it's like a huge bang for the buck. All right. So how do we do all this? The button is on my keyboard. It's not working. Come on, click. There we go. So first, we are going to increase leads. There are, and I'm not going to get super into this. This is an overview. Shameless plug. If you want to get super into this, go register for Boost Your Business. But the first thing that you want to think about when you are increasing leads and also increasing lead quality at the same time is diversifying your sources. For those of you that were in, because I know I see some familiar faces, for those of you that were in Rising Professionals on Thursday, side note, if you don't come to Rising Professionals with Park, it's the first Thursday of the month at 11 Mountain Time. I highly recommend it. We were talking about LinkedIn Pro Finder, and it's basically shutting down. They've grandfathered people in who are still in it, but they've completely changed how LinkedIn generates leads for service professionals in the career space. You are at that mercy. So if you depend on one lead source, you are going to shoot yourself in the foot because you are tied to whatever women changes that source decides to make. And that could be a technology platform, that could be a community, that could be your referrals, which is the second thing, by the way. Build referral partners is awesome, but it's a longer term play. It takes a while to build enough referral partners or past clients to get referrals to really have consistent business. And even in 5 years, I've worked with, I think I'm close to 1,500 clients. I run a really high volume practice until I reduced that quality or reduced the quantity and hit quality. But even with 1,500 clients, there are still times of year where I want leads that don't come from that because I can't control my network. I can't control my referral partners. I can't control client references, which is why I don't like having a referral only business, by the way, but you got to be careful again. And that's diversifying your sources. I love when I prove my own point, right? But they can do a lot for you because for me, potential clients who come through a network or come through like a previous client recommendation, the conversion rate on that's like 90%. So now you're shortening your conversion time. And as you diversify your sources, become a slave to LinkedIn. In our world, that's how I started my entire business. I decided I was going to be a career coach. I started looking around at people's posts, and a very popular recruiter on LinkedIn posted a snarky post about how she doesn't help people change careers. And I was the first comment saying I help people change careers, and I got messages, right? So there's a lot of potential there, but you also have to be really, really consistent, which is exhausting in the content creation world. So there's another rabbit hole we'll probably talk about in Boost Your Business. But if you want to increase your leads and increase your lead quality, I think it's a great idea to have a paid or a directory type source. So LinkedIn Pro Finder. I've used Thumbtack in the past. Different listing sources, right? So you have like an online thing that you know, because guess what number 4 is? Know your numbers. You want to know where people come from and at what rate they convert, because you can throttle that baby up and down, whatever you want, which is why I like having a very controllable source like an online directory or something like that. The referral partnerships and client referrals is huge, is a good third one. And then a content source you can control like LinkedIn, or I'm in some Slack communities that are professionals within my niche, right? So like a digital or a directory type source, like an online community or somewhere where you can, if you generate content, the return will come, whether that's LinkedIn or a community, and then your referrals and your client references, right? And that's 3 examples of how to diversify. And you want to know what percentage of your business comes through each channel and at what rate each channel converts. That's huge. Kathleen asked me to define referral partners. So this could be us, right? So like I specialize in tech and execs, and I know there are resume writers and coaches who aren't comfortable with that subject matter, so they refer to me. On the flip side, I get requests for clients who don't have the budget that aligns with my services. So I refer out to somebody who's a lower, more approachable cost, but who I trust. So that would be an example of a colleague referral partner. We also have some like online referral partners where we're listed and they refer us out to like associations for services and things like that. So it could be fellow colleagues, Kathleen, or it could be a referral source who kind of more passively sends people your way. If you only want to write resumes, a career coach is a great referral partner for you and vice versa, right? So, and Mark brings up a good point. Park is a referral partner because if you're ever on the board, well, the Facebook group and the online community, this stuff comes up. So those are all a bunch of little examples, and there's tons of ways to get really creative with that. And if you have lots of referral partners and diversify that way, you're doing something right. And again, know your numbers. And so once these leads come in, you got to be a sales slayer. Okay. And I'm just going to be like totally honest about this. And there's some ways to do it so it doesn't feel icky. Because you know people you talk to, even clients, they're like, I don't want to sell. I'm like, we always selling. All of us are always selling something, whether it's selling where you want to go to dinner to your husband or selling the fact that your 5-year-old needs to brush their teeth. You're selling something, right? It feels icky when we turn it around and make a sales process like this about us instead of about how we can help people, which is why I am very adamant about selling solutions to problems, because they are easier to sell. Because you don't have to sell them, they sell themselves, because it allows for self-qualification. It removes objections. So you don't have to overcome them anymore. You've removed them from the process. And all of that is package is like my thing. That's something we're going to get into in depth in the Boost Your Business program, because it can be hard to figure out how to take like intellectual property-based stuff and actually package it into something tangible that someone can see as a solution to their problem. But we can do all that and help you speak to it so that basically you're letting them sell themselves. And I'll give you a really specific example of this. My most popular service is a comprehensive job search strategy that is a total solution to all job seeker problems, from how and where do I look for jobs? What the heck am I searching for? To I need a resume, to how do I reach out to people on LinkedIn, to how the heck do I get through a gauntlet of interviews? It is the whole package. But for any of those of you who are experienced coaches, you know a lot of our leads come into us as resume writes. So here's a 30-second review of a sales call with Angie. Hey, bring me up to speed on your career. 20 minutes later, they stop talking. And I say, okay, well, what are your goals? What are you looking for? 5 minutes later, they stop talking. Okay, tell me how I can help. Well, I really need a resume. Okay, cool. Here's how my resume package looks. What else? And they will almost always choose at least one more thing. And now you've magically said, well, we could do a resume package, but because you also mentioned interviewing, it would make way more sense to just do all the things. And they go, oh my gosh, that's such a huge value. I'll just do that. I'm not exaggerating. And it doesn't have to be those 2 examples or those 2 options, but think through presenting 2 options where the second more expensive one has a clear value proposition way over and above the other, will streamline your sales process drastically, increase your ticket. And if you really think about this as giving them a solution to a problem, it no longer feels like you're selling, which is why creating solutions makes this whole thing so much easier. Years and years and years ago, I sold some direct sales stuff. I've signed up for more of those kits than I'm willing to admit, but I actually did really well with one of them. and did like a top 3% sales business with 31 bags, which is hilarious because I am so not 31 bags. But anyway, I did some coaching with a business coach, and she said a couple things that have stuck with me. One of which is, if you are in a sales process and you're talking to a potential client and you start to get a weird feeling in the pit of your stomach, you have turned the sales process around on your need instead of their gain. So if you're sitting there thinking, man, I need this sale, I haven't gotten paid, I don't have a deposit, I don't know how I'm going to make payroll on Friday, I really need this to happen, it ain't going to happen. Because you're selling because you need it, not because they want and will gain from it. So just remember about your kind of motivation. And again, solutions make it way easier to say, here's a solution to your problem. And that way you can detach it from your need. And then all of this helps you maximize the spend. And there's some repetitiveness here on purpose, because package, that's my favorite thing. And selling solutions to problems, not a typo. And knowing your numbers, again, not a typo, because you want to know where your leads come from, at which rate they convert, and how much money that makes you. And if you also then know how much time those services take you, you can optimize the stuff that you're selling most. 2 years ago, we did a whole pricing analysis. We went and pulled probably 24 competitors, looked at pricing. And then I basically did a time breakdown with like 12 clients in like our top 3 services of how much time I was and like what it broke down to. And what I was finding is that the service that makes us the most revenue was also costing me the most time. So it was the thing we were selling the most, and it was the least profitable. You don't want that. You want the opposite. And that's why you want to know your numbers, but you also like want to track everything and know where everything comes from. Because in the end of the day, what I've been able to do is have better leads, fewer calls, higher conversions, more money, less time, right? All of that stuff. And if you can optimize where your leads come from and know that, and give a really streamlined sales process rooted in solutions, then this all kind of like falls into place. And example, and you're not going to optimize it right out the bat, because, like for instance, when I first started 5 years ago, my comprehensive package was $499. It's now $2,499, right? So you kind of need to start somewhere, and you need to find the price point at which people will buy. And then once you prove that concept and you get testimonials for those of you who are the noobs, then you can start increasing. And then when the bigger testimonials and the bigger outcomes come and the credibility is really there, then you can start really jumping pricing. Because I think that over 5 years, that package looked something like $499, $599, $699, $799, $899, $12.99, $15.99, $19.99, $24.99, right? So it was like literally increasing it $100. But if you sell 10 clients a month at a $400 package, and you sell 10 clients a month at a $500 package, you're making $1,000 more. That's a good 25% increase for those of you that are resume writers and need to know how to do statistics on increases. Anyway, you can do the math, but you get what I'm saying, right? So I want to make sure I have a few minutes for questions, and I have to wrap up at about 50 after the hour because I have another webinar. So I'm going to give you a little info about Boost Your Business, but if you want to start queuing up questions in chat, I will wrap. I love nothing more than Q&A day. So I will go through as many as you want. They can be about my experience, my numbers. They can be about Boost Your Business. They can be about business in general, anything you want. But the overview you saw today had kind of 2 goals. One, it was to give you food for thought, and a few, even at a high level, kind of action items to think about. How am I presenting my coaching business as a function of a revenue generating animal? And what can you do to just inch that forward? You don't have to go from $40,000 to $350,000 in 1 year, but you can inch yourself forward. So take 1 or 2 things and implement them. But then I also want to tell you, if you feel like you need more support, around this, we've got Boost Your Business. So it's really focused on learning the business of coaching and becoming a business-minded coach who is, I don't want to say you're a business owner first, but in a way, if you really want to think about the potential growth, the growth capabilities and building wealth through business, you kind of have to think of it that way. So we're really going to dive into the business of coaching, lead generation, content creation, sales, marketing, like that whole business end, so that you can become a lead generating machine, a conversion machine, and overcome the fear of selling, because that's where I really see the obstacle in the coaching world. And all of that is going to help you generate consistent salary-like income, because that's my really big goal here, is to help you reach your goals. And that consistent salary-like income could be whatever you want it to be. It could be replacing a teacher's salary. It could be 6 figures. So it's all really tailored and customizable, adaptable to what you want in your business goals, but encouraging you to have business goals and to reach them. So here's the deets. And I've got all kinds of good questions to answer. It's a 7-week live program. We're starting on the 24th, runs at 11:30 Mountain, 1:30 Eastern on Tuesdays. Next week on the 18th, we are doing a foundations intro for any of you who need to learn about like creating your LLC and business insurance and bank accounts and like really foundational, operational, one-time set it up kind of stuff. So that, once we get into the first week of the program on the 24th, we're going to kind of get right into packaging, the pricing conundrum, and then a lot of the sales, marketing, content, time management, and process stuff that is going to help you help support your growth and your scaling. All right, so here we go. Q&A. Also, for all of you who are on the call, we do have a little discount code. So if you can, by the side note, if any of you do online presentations, QR codes are amazing for them. So you can hold your phone up to that QR code, take a picture, it'll take you straight to the Boost Your Business page on the PARC website and register for the program. And if you enter Angie20 as a promo code, you'll get 20% off the current listed rate for it. And we would love to have you. And now I'm going to jump into some of these questions. So Kendra wanted to know more about Slack communities. It's a lot of them are really nuanced. So like I specialize in tech and exec, and it's this like, I'm on like a couple of those communities. And I found out about them through my individual network. So whether it was a client or somebody I met at a networking event who were like, oh, hey, you should be in this community. The key to a community. So I can't necessarily answer that question super specifically without knowing a whole lot of nuanced info that I don't have time to dig into, Kendra. But if you dig around in your network and ask questions, you can find ones related to your niche. Side note, knowing a niche is a great thing. We're going to talk about that in Boost Your Business too, because then you know what Slack communities to look for. But the thing about communities is you have to show up, and you have to show up consistently. So it almost creates another LinkedIn-like atmosphere where you've got to consistently, like every day or every other day, be in there commenting on stuff, having a voice, and nurturing your presence. So before you play the community, before you play that card as far as one of your sources, you've got to know kind of what territory comes with it. Claire wants to know about testimonials. When my clients get jobs at the end of our process, because most of my clients are in a comprehensive process, so I know when and where and what they land. And when we wrap, I send them a little congratulation email that says, if you had a great experience, I would love a 5-star review. Here's 2 different links where you can use it. And if you have anybody who can benefit from our services, please share the news. So we ask. You're not going to get referrals you're not going to get testimonials if you don't ask. And people, here's the thing, people are very happy to give them to you, but they don't think of it unless you ask. We also did, if you want a promotional idea, to December of 2020, I turned 40, which is not a great year to have a milestone birthday. And so we did an email, we did like a whole campaign to our email list about helping me get 40 for 40 to get 40 Google reviews by the end of the year. And it worked. We were at like 8, and I think we ended at, I think it was 39. I'm going to count that as a win. So I mean, you just have to ask. Christoph says there's a sweet spot between personalized services and offering services in a group. Haha. I will be 100% honest with you. I have not figured out how to do career coaching as a group. Haven't figured it out yet. I'm totally honest. And I think this is one of the challenges of our specific niche and specialty of coaching and how to grow and scale, because it is such a personalized experience for each candidate. And even if you get 10 product managers together, their experiences are all different. And so I have had a really hard time figuring out how to do that. If any of you have figured that out, let me know. I think that there's ways to do it. And we've played around with some different things that didn't stick, largely because I didn't like it. My jam is one-on-one boutique coaching, and we've decided to just own that. I think there's ways to do group coaching, but they're either going to have to be kind of tailored to the type of the group, or they've got to work in a way you can deliver your services. So that is actually, I think, a challenge of our specific industry. Kathleen asked, since I didn't have an HR background, what strategy did I use to promote myself and add value? I used my own experience, empathy, and ability to understand people where they were at. My philosophy in coaching coaches is that you only have to be a half step ahead of where they're at. And in my experience, I had changed careers once or twice. And so I related to them on I have not been happy, let's steer you through it level. And also, I'm just going to be honest, I faked it a little until I made it. And you kind of have to, because if you're ever going to do anything you haven't done before, you got to fake it a little bit or I had somebody tell me, fake it until you become it, which I think is probably a little bit more of a fair term for it. But I would find a way when they would say, what kind of outcomes do you have? Well, when I was selling my first client, I didn't have any outcomes. So I found a way to skirt the issue without lying, right? It wasn't I'm newer in business. So my other clients are so other people I'm working with are kind of still in process and we haven't gotten to their outcome yet. Or I found a way to work around it while not diluting the confidence they had in my ability to steer them. And once you do that a couple dozen times, now you've gotten over that hump. So that is a real issue when you're new, but I think the message is know your value proposition and why you're doing this work. And if you attach that to your ability to understand and empathize with the potential client, they will see that you want to help them and trust that you can support support their goals. Claire, do you mean today or in Boost Your Business? Because in Boost Your Business, you're going to get all kinds of materials, one sheets, specific, really specific resources, I would say, versus today was kind of the goal of an overview purely because of the amount of time that we had. So short answer, if you mean in the program, yeah, I'll get into all kinds of stuff. And do I have subcontractors? So I have a whole team. So yes, my husband works for Career Benders. He is our media professional. So he does all of our web work. He has filmed, directed, and produced all of our online courses. And then he also builds websites for some of our entrepreneurial clients, specializing in coach, authors, and podcast websites. He also produces our podcast. So we almost have like a media division that he runs, which is the service line we added last year that gave us, like $10,000, $20,000 in additional revenue that helped that jump. So he does that. And then I have a marketing manager who works about 15 to 20 hours a week. And then I have an assistant who works 25 hours a week. And then I have a second coach who takes about 4 to 6 clients a month. The second coach is new this fall, by the way. And then Mark made a recommendation for quality group coaching. I love this because I would just love an example, not to steal it, but to be inspired by it, of somebody who has figured out how to do it and do it well. And so I'm glad somebody has a solid model. Coleman wants to know, besides Park material, are the books that you think are go-to for so you mean good go-to resources for our vocation, not for business, right, Coleman? Yeah, I got one right here. I love this book. That's a great book. And I also love having my bookshelf right behind me, this book, which is a little bit more of a crossover between the two. It's kind of how you coach. I love this book. I bought this in an airport and read the entire thing in the plane. Who knew I'd find one of my favorite books in an airport bookstore? Did I say airport bathroom first? Okay, I said airport. That would be a unique place to find your favorite book, wouldn't it? I have all kinds of book recommendations, but that's a few to start. Okay, Claire, we're solid. Should you indicate a special niche on your promotional materials or not? I knew somebody was going to ask me about niches. Tricky thing about niches, if you're new, is you got to know what your niche is, but you also have to be cautious of over marketing to only it, because you don't want to market to everybody, but you can't be too specific or you won't get enough leads. So you got to find a little bit of a gray area that your messaging is tight enough. So it's mid-career professionals, but not specifically mid-career professionals in technology, for instance, or it's people in like 3 or 4 industries or whatever it is. So when you're starting out, I would say yes, but not too tight. As you get more experience and you get more leads and you want to start getting leads more focused on the niche, absolutely. So my website specifically talks about how we specialize in resumes for technology executives, STEM professionals and things like that. And I have people who will tell me, I called you because it said this. So once you know what that niche is and have proven the concept that you can serve it and generate consistent income in it, 100% share it. Oh, books to say out loud. It was Top Notch Executive Resumes. Last name on that's Hansen. And then it was The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay-Stainer, which is a very unfortunate name, by the way, when you say it out loud. And his books are excellent. Yes. So Christoph agrees. If I'm going to ask Mark to go find him on Amazon and add him to chat, because I can't do that and do anything else productive at the same time. And then can I speak more about my experience on Thumbtack? Thanks, Tammy. That's a loaded question. So we've been on there it's almost 5 years. I hopped on there in the spring of 2018, right after I was new. And I actually think the platform was fairly new. And we were able to, my experience in general is it took about 8 to 12 weeks. It took about 2 to 3 months to build a little engine and be seen on there enough to get referrals or enough to get leads. So there's a patience factor there, but it will pay off. You do have to pay to play, and they're one of those platforms that likes to change their stuff all the time. And so they've changed how they charge for leads 3 or 4 times since we've been on it. Because I was kind of on there early, we've gotten into some of their like programs for top pros and stuff like that have helped, and we've been able to get insider knowledge. It can be expensive if you're not very careful, and having very targeted, tailored settings on your leads will help mitigate that. In the long run, Thumbtack is one of those things where you really have to look at the long overall picture of the return on your cost investment, because otherwise you're going to be like, holy crap, I paid for this $100 for this lead who never even answered my message. Well, you might have paid $100 for the next lead who then bought a $2,000 package. So there's also a factor of like how much you charge for the types of people you're getting on there and if it's worth it. I've had a year, our best year, we spent $15,000 on Thumbtack, which I know you're going, well, we made 75K. And that was only for what we could directly tie to Thumbtack, not the referrals that came out of the clients who worked with us via Thumbtack, right? So it can be really good. You just have to be careful. And we figured out how to do it really well. Jim, actually, we don't use it very much anymore. That's one of those sources that like in April, when the new year job search is over, and I'm like, I could take 2 or 3 more clients than I have right now. I'll tell Jim, turn on Thumbtack and we'll get 2 or 3 more clients, and then we'll turn the budget back down. So that's one of those things that we can throttle up or down to fill in to make sure that we're always getting our monthly income. But we've kind of weeded off of it considerably, which is great because now my per client profitability is higher because my lead generation cost was lower. But it can be really good for getting you out of your network, getting new leads that are totally cold on you, and filling in some gaps. Mark shared the books. What else we got? That's it. Who else is going to ask me stuff? What is my average revenue per client? I need to rerun that with the new pricing. but I would think now it should be in the $2,000 per client range, because I know 70-ish% of our revenue comes from that package that is now $2,400. Resume onlys run like anywhere from 9 to 13, depending on who they are. So I should be in close to the 2,000 per average. I got 5 more minutes. Who else wants to ask me stuff? Oh, you should see my calendar. I could see on your face you were typing something, Lisa, because you're one of the few people who's in my view. I don't think you want to see my calendar. Okay, so my day, and actually this is a good question and something we're going to dig into more in Boost Your Business. Because when I'm actually going to go back to answer that question, because I think that this is really the relevant piece for all of you. I encourage you to set up an appointment style calendar, because in 2020, when I went nutso with clients, I took on way too much work because I didn't have slotting available to say like, okay, I can only take more clients next week. So what I used to do was I would have a calendar that literally said available appointment, available appointment, available appointment, available appointment. So when I was on with a client, I would tell them, here's what I've got open. And then I'm not even joking about what I'm about to describe. And it's going to sound nuts. Even as I'm about to say it, I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to tell anybody this. What I would do is at like Thursday, every single week, I would look at the next week and the 2 weeks out, and I would count how many openings I had who current clients didn't need. So like by Thursday, I had all my clients from this week slated in. So I knew whatever I had open next week could be for an available client. Then I would look at this week and say, well, in 2 weeks, all these clients will need a session. So now I know what's left. Like it was a very nuanced effort to know how much load I could take in any given time. Once I got a little bit, and I was taking, at that point, I was pretty much seeing 5 clients a day, 5 days a week. Now I see 4 to 6, 4 days a week. And so it was like super regimented. Now what I do is I have Calendly set up, and everybody books through Calendly, but I have a million different types of events with a million types of controls on them, so that like a whole day can't get filled with free strategy sessions with potential clients. And now I have no client sessions left. But it took a while to get to that stage. Claire, I probably work somewhere in the 40 to 50 hour a week range. I am 42. I don't have kids. We ski 60 days a year. Does that help? That, like, to give you a frame of reference, and if I didn't have a husband who made me go ski 60 days a year, I would probably work 90 hours a week, to be honest. And that's just kind of like how I'm wired and what I love. But we live in the mountains of Colorado, which is where we bought our house. And my first world problem is that we have to drive 40 minutes to Aspen to ski 60 days a year. So we make time for adventure. We're renovating our kitchen right now. And I work 40 to 50 hours a week. So my day, to go back to Lisa, I get up I make myself sound so neurotic when I say these out loud, but I get up at 5:05. I leave the house at 5:27. I go to CrossFit at 6 a.m. I'm back home by about 7:30. And then I get coffee, breakfast, and check emails. And then from like 8 till ideally 11 is my work time. I write resumes, I write content, blogs, I do business development, I do my LinkedIn engagement, I do all the business stuff. And then ideally, I don't see a client from 11 until 11. Sometimes I have to make that 10. And then my last meeting is usually 4:30. So I'm on with clients or potential client calls. Usually have a lunch break from like 11 to 5 or 5:30, Monday through Thursday. I don't work on Fridays. I try not to. So that's a really long answer to how's your day look, because it's not easy. Because it's gone in it looked like different iterations. I've always done for the last 3 years, I've always done the get up early thing, because the other problem I ran into when I didn't block appointment schedules was I would have clients from 9 to 6. There was a day where I had 13 client meetings. Don't do that to yourself, please. Please. Even if you are a super type A extrovert, don't do that to yourself. Okay. So, and what I was realizing is I had no time to sit and write resumes. I was literally writing one bullet in between every meeting. And so that's when I was like, and my best hours of the day are morning. So I was like, I got to block morning to actually do workload stuff. And now I've gotten to the point that because of my client flow, I tend to have to write 1 resume a day, 4 days a week. So I really can't do more than that. I sometimes I can if they're easy, but I don't love it. Okay. So I actually, until we bought our house, I did have an office. I had a co-working space. It was also partly because we lived in a 225 square bus, and Jim doesn't need to hear this all day long while I talk to people, bark at people on a screen. So I had a co-working space that was fantastic. And I actually got some clients because of it. I live in a place where no one needs career coaching because they either own $50 million houses and don't need a career coach, or they found the one job that will allow them to live in a ski town for the rest of their life. So almost all my clients are remote. The caveat there is when I first started Career Vendors, I live about 3 hours from Denver. I went to Denver 2 or 3 times a month. I would network. I had a small office down there that, if you want the honest truth, I slept in on an air mattress and nobody knew it overnight. I would go down there at 6 a.m. I would see clients. I would go to networking events. I would stay overnight in my little office on my air mattress. I would get up. I would do it again the next day. And then I'd come home and be so exhausted I couldn't talk to anyone for 3 days. This is also probably a good thing for you to know, because this is also part of why my business grew, is because I was willing to do whatever it took to grow it. You don't have to do these things. I will say, when I was starting out, offering an in-person meeting definitely helped conversions, because but this was also pre-pandemic, when I think people expected that more. Now they expect fully remote. So, thank you, Mark. On time, right? I got 2 or 3 minutes. I'm good. And so I think you really have to evaluate the cost. I was fortunate that office in Denver was like $250 a month, and it was a veritable closet. But since I was only there 2 or 4 days a month, it wasn't that bad. And it was in the best neighborhood in Denver over an amazing boutique. I probably spent more money than I made, but depending on where you're located, it can be. Now, I just set the expectation. We're doing remote, which I think even newer coaches have the ability to do because the climate has moved that way. And as Mark just reminded me, I got to keep an eye on my time. So I'm going to wrap up and maybe take a breather and eat 4 calories before I go do another webinar. And I want to thank all of you for joining. I hope I get to see your faces and boost your business. Again, if you scan this QR code, you'll get the program info on the Park site. It's where you can register. Angie20 will give you a discount code. But even if you don't join us for the program, I would love to connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to be just a resource in this whole world of business, of coaching. And it's a game changer, Kendra. What else? We would love to see your faces on some of the other Park stuff. So if you're newer in business, or even if you're not newer in business, I'm old and I still go to Rising Professionals. It will be a great thing. So, and I encourage all of you to think about what you want out of your businesses this year. And maybe there's a couple good takeaways today to help you grow in whatever definition that is for you. It does not have to be Angie's insanity of going to Denver and sleeping on an air mattress in a closet that no one knows she's sleeping in. Right? So, yay. Thank you all. There is a post in chat if you want the direct link to Business Academy. And then don't forget discount. And I want to thank Margaret and Doug and Park. This is going to be a super fun program. And this was fun too. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Angie. And thank you everybody for being here. This is a great opportunity for everybody to learn. And I appreciated all of you, and especially Angie and Mark. So have a great and productive rest of your day, everybody. Take care.